You are listening to episode 169 of the Autism Mom Coach. What is an expert?
Welcome to the Autism Mom Coach podcast. I am your host, Lisa Candera. I am a lawyer, a life coach, and most importantly, I am the full-time single mother of a teenager with autism. In this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools and strategies you need so you can fight like hell for your child without burning out. Let's get to it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you are here, and I hope you are doing well. For this week's episode, we're going to do something a little bit different in that I am going to talk about something that has nothing to do with autism in order to make a point about autism parenting. So, for those of you who don't know, I am a huge fan of true crime. And for the past few weeks, I have been glued to YouTube watching the Karen Read retrial. So very quickly, for those of you who do not know, this is a trial going on in Boston, and Karen Read is a woman who is being accused of killing her boyfriend, who was a Boston cop, by hitting him with her car and leaving him to die. Now, this case is very complicated and it has everything in it. It has a toxic relationship, it has accusations of a police cover-up, and it has all different types of technology that the experts are trying to piece together to tell a story. And because of all the drama in this case with the witnesses who aren't very credible or they have credibility issues, there's really been a focus on the technology to tell the story. So because of that, it's coming down to a battle of the experts. One of the experts that testified, his specialty is analyzing the information that came from the defendant's Lexus SUV. I think he said it was an SD card, but within that SD card is a lot of information about the operation of the vehicle. During his testimony, he placed the defendant at the scene at the time that they think that her car hit the victim. So he is cross-examined by the defendant's attorneys, who are spectacular. And instead of dissecting all of the substantive information, the defendant's attorney starts asking him all of these questions about his credentials, about his LinkedIn profile. And as it turned out, on his LinkedIn page and on the company's webpage, this witness indicates that he has a bachelor's of science. But on the CV or his resume that he submitted to the court, he indicates that he has not yet received his bachelor's of science. So this became a really big deal because it wasn't so much about whether or not he had the bachelor's of science. It was about whether or not he was being deceptive, because if he was being deceptive in one area, how could the jury trust his testimony in another area? But what caught my interest, which is why I'm doing a podcast on it and how this applies to autism parenting, was the fact that it wasn't really about whether or not he had the bachelor's of science. Because of all of his experience and all of his various certifications, the bachelor's of science really almost didn't matter in terms of his credentials. He was an expert anyway. He was an expert in reading data. He was an expert in analyzing this data based on all of the experience that he had doing this exact same thing. Now, yes, he had different certifications and he had been to various trainings, but the core of his expertise is that he had done this many times, and in fact, he had also testified about it many times. But what really struck me about this is the fact that the defense attorney made such a big deal about it. He was like, aha, you do not have your bachelor's of science, do you? And in fact, you've been working on it for 17 years and you still don't have it. Kind of as a way to shame this guy. But in reality, that generalized education had nothing to do with his expertise. And so I bring this back to autism parenting because we've all been brought up in this society that says we have to do certain things. There are a series of steps that you need to take before you can say, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, I'm an MD, I'm an attorney. And I think because of this, we have all lost sight of what an expert is because we align it so closely with education and going through all the steps of an education in order to be able to call yourself an expert. Because when I talk to my families and they say things to me like, I'm not the expert, they're the experts. This happens a lot of time when my moms are getting calls from the school in the middle of the day and the school is asking them and they are baffled. They're like, what are you talking about? You have an OT, a PT, a behavioralist there. You're the experts. Why can't you figure it out? And I totally understand that. And the fact is, their education, their internships, their trainings, whatever they have gone through pales in comparison to the amount of hours on the job that you have raising your child with autism. That is why you are the expert on your child. You've done the 10,000 hours and then some. You've gotten the bachelor's, the master's, the doctorate. You are an expert on your child. I don't mean that you know everything and that you don't need other people, because you definitely do. You need the teachers, you need the caseworkers, you need the therapists, the doctors, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, all of them. But ultimately, you are making the decisions about your kiddo. You are implementing their suggestions in your home, in your family, and you are seeing how they work in real time, in real life. I'll give you an example of this. I was told very forcefully when my son was 13 years old and his aggression was escalating, I was told ABA, and I knew for a fact that ABA would not only work, it would be a disaster. However, the experts were telling me to do it, and I didn't want to be seen as not listening to them because they were the expert and I wasn't, because they kept telling me that ABA was the gold standard. I don't say this to put you in a combative relationship with members of your team. I'm saying this to remind you, you know so much more than you give yourself credit for. This is your reminder from me, thanks to the Karen Reed trial, that experts come in all shapes and sizes. You do not have to have a degree on your wall that says Masters in Autism to be an expert specifically on your child. Your child is 100% unique. They are not going to fall into any given category nicely. That is why it is so important for you to trust yourself. All right, everyone, I hope that was helpful. I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Autism Mom Coach. If you are ready to apply the principles you are learning in these episodes to your life, it is time to schedule a consultation call with me. Podcasts are great, but the ahas are fleeting. Real change comes from application and implementation, and this is exactly what we do in my one-on-one coaching program. To schedule your consultation, go to my website, theautismmomcoach.com, work with me, and take the first step to taking better care of yourself so that you can show up as the parent you want to be for your child with autism.